and welcome to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andrew Temte, and today we've got Manuj Aggarwal, founder and chief innovation officer at Tetranoodle Technology. I just love that name, Tetranoodle, and you'll have to give us the insight of where that name came from, Manuj. So today we're going to continue exploring the balance between trust and accountability that we've been talking about for a few episodes now. Our listeners will remember we had a sales professional, Mr. Nick Black, on the show talking about trust and accountability between sales and the business. Today we're gonna focus on technology. So back in episode 20, just for our listeners, Dan Strafford and I talked about what accountability looks like at the organizational level. As I mentioned, today we're going to drill down into the technology department, and Manuj has all sorts of experience that he'll share with us from a tech perspective. But before we get started, Manuj, it'd be great if you told our listeners your story. And while you're telling it, if you had to pick one event in your life that was a real key accelerant in your career, what would that have been?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here. Let's talk about my story. Basically, I grew up in India in a very, very small town, north part of India, and not a lot of opportunities there for higher education or jobs and whatnot. So my career started at 15, working in a factory for $2 a day, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. It was just back-breaking work. And I wanted to do something better with my life. And I obviously in this situation with no resources, not even like a decent education, I was really puzzled what to do. And for through some fluke of luck, I got myself enrolled into a computer programming course, and I just found exactly what I wanted to do with my life. So I just loved computers. I programming day, night, and just sort of went crazy with it. And then what happened was I came to Canada. Once again, it was just a fluke of luck. I never planned to do that. Just happened that I landed up here right in the middle of .com boom. And as I landed in North America, I easily got a job within a few weeks. And the funny thing is, I actually landed around year 2000. So it was like towards the end of the .com boom. And in a few months, I lost that job because of .com bust. The company I was working with, they were in operation for like 12 months or so. They already went public. They had a multi-million-dollar IPO. And then all of that collapsed within a few months. So I saw it all happen firsthand. And then I said, okay, I need to look for another job. I got another job. And then September 11th happened. And then I lost that job as well. And then, when this happened consecutively, I said, okay, I need to do something on my own. It doesn't seem like this job security thing is a real thing. And so I started my consulting company, working with a lot of startups, some early stage startups, but some startups with hundreds of millions of dollars in budgets, which were floated within larger corporations like Microsoft and Pearson. And so they were trying to, sort of float new ideas, get ahead of the curve. So I learned a lot in multiple industries, how things are done in logistics, in education, in healthcare, in real estate. And the funny thing is that there are so many common problems that people face, and they never seem to, have any inkling outside of the industry. How have other people solved this? And so that gave me a little bit of a superpower in that I could bring these solutions from different industries. And then you asked me about the pivotal moment. So one of the most painful periods of my time was, I've had a lot of challenges in my personal relationships with my spouse, with my parents and whatnot. And then I had my first child in 2010, and I couldn't connect with my first child. That was the lowest point in my life. That was like, okay, how can I not, how can I not be able to connect with my child. I have been blaming other people, adults not understanding me, and now with my child. So that led me into, really understanding the mind, really understanding how our psychology works, neuroscience, meditation. And then along with that, I was also getting heavily into artificial intelligence. So I have 4 patents today in artificial intelligence and machine learning. I've written 2 books on technology. So all these experiences sort of really gave me an understanding about how technology works, how humans work, how humans use technology, and how we can combine these paradigms to bring about some magical results. So that is like a very brief summary of my story, and I can sort of go into either one of the aspects as you seem fit.
Yeah. So in this podcast, I want to make sure that our guests kind of get out into the listenership. Yeah. What you're trying to promote. Kind of why are you here? What's the one thing that you would tell our listeners that they should be really interested in about your story and the products and services that you have to offer?
So what we do is we help companies utilize the power of human psychology and then utilize technology to scale things up. So, in business, when we enter business, as if we are inexperienced, we all think it's about building a cool product. It's about technology. It's about these inventions and patents. But as we gain experience, nothing else matters other than human beings, because, our customers are human beings. They have emotions. They have feelings. Our employees are human beings. Our suppliers, our partners, everybody is a human being, and they have their own priorities. They have their own lives. They have their own, mission in life that they are on. So understanding human beings, their psychology, understanding what their priorities are, is the number one thing that people need to take into account. And that is what we bring to the table, where people, even Fortune 500 companies, they have lost the science and the art of understanding what their employees want. So they come to us to increase engagement. People have forgotten to learn more about what their customers want, and they wonder why their products are not selling. We go in there and really understand what the customer wants, and then translate into a blueprint that technologists can actually implement and then produce the results that they're looking for. So what I always suggest to people is that whether you are, looking to climb the corporate ladder, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are a startup founder, whether you are a venture capitalist, really learn to listen to other people, really learn to understand their priorities. And that is what is going to give you the superpower to accelerate your growth and achieve the results that you're really looking for. Because in many cases, we stand in our way because, we focus on the wrong things. If you focus on people and understanding them, everything falls into place.
Yeah. So for our listeners, this is why Manuj and I have really connected. He had me on his show, and this whole center around people. Your people are your most valuable asset in your business. The people around you are the most valuable asset for your business, i.e., your customer. So this is Manuj's explanation is why we're so nicely connected here. So let's get into the topic at hand, which is trust and accountability in the area of technology specifically. From my chair as the former chief executive officer of $300+ million global business, there is a lot of tension between "quote unquote" the business and the technology department, with each one of them pointing fingers at the other when new product launches aren't on time or certain goals aren't met. I'd like your experience with this tension, and do you have a particularly stark example that you can share?
Many of them. It's very interesting when I was on the other side, because I've been a technical person, I've been a CTO, and I've had those challenges where people don't trust each other, and when things don't go well, we generally tend to defend our position. But at the end of the day, what I have noticed is, again, going back to my previous conversation, first it starts with the communication. Because you see, as an executive, I focus on different things, meaning I want to summarize the information, because there is so much coming at me every day. People are talking to me about customer complaints, about delays, about things not working. And in order for me to make sense, I need to summarize it. That's why executives want to look at charts. We want to look at, just give me like two liners. Okay, tell me what is going on, because I don't have the mental space to assimilate a lot of information, digest it. But when we talk about technical folks, they're all about details. They're all about, okay, I'm going to do this procedurally, step by step. I want to make sure that all the KPIs are recorded. I know what I'm doing. So fundamentally, there is a disconnect in the way we communicate. And that is one of the major reasons why this starts to bubble up, meaning I'm trying to tell the technical team as an executive, hey, this product launch is very important. And they're like, yeah, it is very important. I understand. But that's where the conversation stops. If we can take that conversation a little bit further and say, you know what? I understand when I talk to you during our annual review, you want to buy a new house for your family and you want to get a raise. Now, I have a plan for our company to do better, which will actually generate more revenue, which will actually help us, increase your salary, give you bonuses and whatnot. Now, in order for us to get there, we need this product launch. And why is that? Because we did a market research and, 100,000 customers said, if you can launch this product on time, we'll pay you $10 million. Imagine what we can do with those $10 million. What do you say about that, right? And now you are enrolling that technical person into your mission because we have aligned their priorities with the priorities that we have as an executive, as a company. And not only that, they see this as their mission now, because it is actually trying to justify, what they are after. At the end of the day, we all care about certain things in our life, right? So all we need to do is take the time and communicate to them clearly how the company is actually aligning to their objectives and helping them move forward. And not only that, we need their help to get there. So we are putting their own fate into their own hands. So this communication really works magic, because now we are all aligned, and delays are going to happen. Mistakes are, going to be made. And if we can say, hey, I understand there is a delay. I understand there's a mistake. So what is your contingency plan? Let's work on that. Because if we don't have a contingency plan, what will it do? Yes, it will affect the revenue and all that. Company will survive. But what about your mission to buy a new house for your family? That will be affected as well. What do you say to that? So if we can have that kind of a conversation, everything else fall into place. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. Look, communication and purpose. That's my summary there, and that's just excellent. Back in episode 20, Dan Strafford and I talked about accountability and planning as one of the key elixirs for the accountability challenges. What are some of the tools and techniques that you've used that you can share with our listeners about how you've gotten technical folks involved in the planning process and kept that two-way conversation going?
Yeah. So I come from a software engineering background, and there's an Agile process which is very, very popular these days. It's been popular for a few decades. But at the end of the day, what we need to recognize is that technology, business, people, environment, these are fluid, dynamic environments. So we cannot see much further than, say, 6 months and say, okay, in the next 6 months, this is where we need to sort of get to. But let's just figure out what do we need to get there for the next 2 weeks. So we plan our time within like sprints of 1 week, 2 weeks, or what have you. And then at the start of the sprint, which is the 2 week or 1 week period where we say, okay, this is what we're going to focus on. We have a planning meeting with every stakeholder in the room. Now, these meetings can get unwieldy. So will encourage people to, sort of focus on 7 to 10 people in that planning meeting. And then we just say, okay, by the end of the next 2 weeks or 1 week, this is where we need to be. Let's break down what are the tasks needed, what are the projects we need to take up, and then assign those tasks, assign those expectations that this is what complete means. Let's say we want to launch a website. Okay, what does that mean? Like how many pages, like who is going to test it? What is the definition of a complete? You lay it out, everything, and then everybody understand by the end of the 2 weeks, this is what I'm expected to do. This is what I need to be delivering. And if there's a problem, then there's a daily sort of, sync up, catch up meeting where people can really share any unexpected events so that the team can handle it in an agile fashion and can address it, as we go. So it's a very high level description of the agile process, but that works wonder. And then in order to implement it, there are certain tools like, you may be familiar with Jira or ClickUp or Trello or whatnot. But at the end of the day, like, it's all about like really planning, as you said, dividing that plan into smaller chunks of work and then prioritizing it and making sure that we are working on the high priority items.
Yeah. So, Agile, and our listeners know that I'm a continuous improvement and organizational health leader. They're probably sick of me saying those words, but what I found is that Agile and continuous improvement are they're very, very closely aligned with one another. And I've literally sat in a room with Agile professionals, folks that have really attached themselves to that methodology, and then they hear me talking about continuous improvement, and they think it's some foreign language, and that I'm going to have to learn something completely new. And the answer is no, you don't. The tenets are very, very aligned with one another. So getting technologists that want to do everything agile, and then business people that are focused on continuous improvement, one of the biggest lessons that I think we can impart today is that those things are essentially the same
Absolutely,
thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, continuous improvement, it's actually one of the tenets of Agile itself. I mean, there is a prescriptive meeting that has to happen, which is retrospective in an Agile framework, which is all about, reviewing what happened in the past 1 week, 2 weeks, what can be improved upon. And so continuous improvement is actually built into this whole process.
Yeah. So a dear friend of mine manages the B2B team for a very, very large North American retailer who I will not say the name of. And he and I talk a lot about I'm not a technology leader, but I've, as chief executive officer, I'm kind of de facto a technology leader. But if you call me the business guy, and if you call him the technology guy, we engage in pretty robust conversations about deadlines and agile frameworks, and how those two things don't necessarily align with one another. What advice do you have for business leaders like myself to help improve their empathy for the way of working in an agile framework, where the old concept of a quote unquote deadline really doesn't apply anymore? How do you get business people to really understand that? And again, the key word here is empathy, and be able to see what's happening on both sides of the equation.
Yeah. No, that's a very, very good question. In fact, this is where a lot of organizations actually fail to leverage the key aspects of Agile and also communication. But basically, as we all know, 80% of the results in any endeavor are produced by 20% of efforts. Now, the thing is that what we think as results as executives, because most of our focus is on generating revenue, growing business, satisfying customers, which are very, very different than launching a website or any technical project that people are, implementing. So what happens is that for the technical folks, you can imagine they are excited about building technology. They're excited about engineering. They're excited about, finding new ways of solving very, very complex problems. And so that is their objective. That is what drives them. And then executives, they want to, bring in revenue. Now, if we can just say, okay, hey, technical folks, we really need to launch the website. Even if it doesn't have the flashy, all the graphics and all that, the customer just needs to land on the website and be able to pay for this product as easily as possible. You can do all the technical sort of, bells and whistles as the second phase of the project, because I don't really need it. The customers don't really care for it. Okay. What we really need to do is just make that happy path of paying for the product very, very easy. So let's prioritize that. That'll be our 24% effort, which will bring in the 80% of the results. And the rest of the effort, we can figure it out as we go. If we can focus on that, things start to work. But as we said, our focus is entirely in different places, and that's where the alignment between the objectives are not very clear. Now, I'm just giving you a general sort of a scenario which I have seen that happen many, many times. There are other intricate details in many projects that are peculiar to that project, but generally, it's this prioritization 80-20 rule which is not aligned, which causes this problem.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Just I promised I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Where do you think the head of technology belongs in the reporting hierarchy of the business? This is a point of contention that I've had with previous leaders that I've dealt with. Some leaders want to put technology under the chief financial officer or under the chief operating officer and kind of tuck it away like it's this machine that we tap into. And I'm really interested in your perspective on, in the organizational hierarchy, where should the head of technology sit?
Great question. The thing is that we are living in a technological age where every company is a technology company. Even if you're running a corner store, you have to have internet connection, you have to have secure systems, you have to have these basic things, right? Now, if your business depends on technology, there is no question that it has to be the full-fledged citizen of the executive team. I may be biased because I'm coming from technology, but when I look at the business side of things, all I know is, let's say if you are a horse cart driver and horse is your main way of making a living, if you do not care for that horse, if you do not try to understand that horse, if you just treat that horse as a machine, it's not going to last very long. And I have seen this happen so many times in companies where they do not want to invest in technology. Even when the technology people are saying, hey, I'm seeing some cracks here, if we don't fill these gaps, in 2 years, our technology is going to collapse, because if you keep growing this business and, we don't overhaul it, we don't take care of it, things are going to collapse. And multiple times, people who do not understand technology, they fail to, sort of invest in it, right? So this lack of understanding, this sort of, this tendency to treat technology as a black box ultimately backfires. So I definitely think technology should be at the table and must be heard just like any other department. That we need to take care of this because our business depends on it.
Yeah, well, virtual fist bump. I didn't want to lead the witness, but I too strongly believe that technology has to have a seat at the table, at the executive table. Which, as a side note, we've got a long way to go to grow the leadership capabilities within technology. We've got a huge what I call an accidental manager challenge in technology. Hey, Susie, you're really good at coding. You want to lead some people?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Susie's in charge of people, and all of a sudden, Susie's got a seat at the table, but we haven't really invested in Susie's leadership capabilities. But that's for another episode. So Manuj, it's been wonderful having you on the show. I just one more question, if I may. We're going to have some folks that are listening that are interested in entering the field of technology. Maybe they just got their first job in technology. You're here. You've got, you had that experience in the early 2000s of losing a couple of jobs and having to redefine yourself. What's that one piece of sage advice that new individual contributor into technology needs to hear from you today?
Yeah, first, become a lifelong learner, because technology moves at a very, very rapid pace, and you don't want to get caught up in a wave of technology that is getting outdated, because that is the short way of you becoming redundant. So always invest a few hours a week learning about new technologies. What this will do is it will not only open up your mind, but it will also give you avenues to pursue more interesting things. Because, one thing we all know, if this becomes like, your job becomes like a hobby, then you don't have to work at all in your life, because, it basically you're having fun doing what you love to do, and you're getting paid for it. And the way to discover that really that key thing that interests you so much that it becomes your hobby is to try out new things, right? If you don't try out new things, you will never know. And so this is a short way of, listen to these kind of podcasts. It takes like 30 minutes. So if you're on a commute, make sure that you, have 3-4 episodes lined up, or read a book, or, for hardcore technologies, like I still find new technologies and I start coding for fun and see, okay, what can I gain out of this, and see, what is the new capability of this new language they are coming up? What is the new, capability of this new platforms somebody has launched? And now I don't have to go deep into it, but I know that, hey, if this situation arises, I know there is something out there that can solve this problem. So now I have a broad sort of scope of things in my mind. And also I can pursue anything that really interests me, that pushes me. Just like I mentioned, artificial intelligence, because I was pursuing new things. And as soon as I saw an opportunity to implement artificial intelligence, I raised my hand. I said, oh yeah, I wanna do that, right? So I failed initially a couple of times, but that's how you learn. So you keep pursuing your interest, and that's what gives you the edge, the enthusiasm, and also future proof your career as you go through either building your startup or your career, what have you. And I mean, if you look around, all the successful professionals, doctors, lawyers, everyone has to keep themselves updated with the new findings, new inventions, new medicine. It's the same with technology as well.
So you're telling me that my COBOL skills need a little polishing?
Absolutely. You know what? COBOL is still relevant, because there are still many mainframes out there, right? So if you really start to drill deeper into it, there's huge demand for COBOL developers right now. People are paying premium for it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I back when I was in school in the mid 1980s, we actually had a VAX machine. Mm-hmm. One of the first coding classes that I had, we had cards in, a stack of cards in a box that if you walked across campus and you tripped and fell, your entire program was laying all over the quad. That's and that actually happened to me. That was my experience with
and you coding. See, you remember it after all these years. That's how powerful that experience is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Manuj, it was wonderful speaking with you again, and I just want to thank you for all of your insights. My name is Andy Temte. This is the Balancing Act podcast. You can find us on Spotify and Apple and Spreaker and Podbean and all the podcasting services. You visit us on andrewtemte.com. Please look up Manuj at Tetranoodle. Again, before we go, how'd you come up with the name?
So I'm not good at marketing as most engineers are not. So when I was looking for a name, I used to visit this restaurant called Noodle Box with my friends. And one day I was sitting there and I was like, okay, this is the box, so let's call it Square Noodle. And I was just joking. I was like, these people are going to laugh at me. They go, oh yeah, that sounds really good. I'm like, really? Are you joking with me? Yeah, no, it sounds good. Like, keep going with that. So then from Noodle Box, it became Square Noodle. Then it became Tetranoodle.
Oh, very, very fun. Very fun. So thanks for sharing that. Again, visit us at andrewtemte.com. We're on LinkedIn. We're everywhere. Manuj has a program as well. So thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you.